Hello and welcome to Own Your Health with me, Katie Brindle, the wellness expert you need to watch according to Forbes magazine and healer to the stars according to Hello magazine. So before we get into today's episode, I wanted to highlight to you a couple of these brilliant sponsors that we have. So we're really picky about who we partner with because I want to make sure that when I'm partnering and promoting something here to you, my audience, that I endorse it wholeheartedly and I genuinely think it's in your interest to know about it. So let's talk about Meda. Now, Meda Skincare was set up in 2009 by Dr. Tina Meda. And the reason I love this brand so much is because it's really very much focused on finding holistic and natural solutions to your skincare. And she has a few really cool, iconic products. The first one, which is the one that she started with, which is this probiotic exfoliating Enzy peel mask. What it does is it works in conjunction with the microbiome on your skin. Now, this is really important because most of my audience is sort of 40 plus. So anyone that's 40 plus is likely to have put chemicals on their skin over the years because that was the skincare that we were sort of introduced to in the bad old days of the 20th century. Now, that's not great because when you strip the microbiome off your skin, what happens is then that gets replaced by a whole load of chemicals. And that's not great because basically everything's stripped off and chemical dependent. So what happens with this Enzy peel mask is that it basically supports the health and diversity of your skin's beneficial bacteria. Now, this is important because I'm talking to you about this in the autumn. And autumn is very much a time of the metal element, which is to do with your lungs and your large intestine and the immune system. And microbiome, which sits on the surface of the skin and is not to be stripped off, has a direct relationship with the lungs because the skin is the second lung. And the lungs, in turn, have the secondary organ of the large intestine, which is where vast quantities of this microbiome are hosted within the body. And this is all the good bacteria. This is all the good stuff. So we really don't want to be stripping this stuff out. So Meda has a brilliant quiz which will help you establish exactly what it is that you need to be adding to your skincare routine. But the hero product that she launched with back in 2009, which sort of got her into the public space, is very much this Enzy peel mask, which is probably the thing that I use the most and I really, really enjoy using, and you can really feel it sort of working into the skin. So a brilliant, brilliant brand. I really, really endorse this brand. I think it works very much as regular skincare, but also treatment skincare as well. And I'm all in favour of regulating the biome back into your skin if you've been using chemicals. The first thing we were going to talk about, we thought, was hair. Because you and I touched on hair last time you were in, and we've both got fine hair.
Yes.
You have gone down I'm going to do everything in my power to look after my hair. I gave up 20 years ago because I was just sick to death of trying all these various supplements and things and nothing was working, so I fake it. But let's talk hair. So you are such an expert. So Victoria, over to you.
Well, I do talk about my hair thinning, which ran in my family, my mum and my grandmother, who are no longer with us. I remember them being in their 50s, 60s, 70s and always lamenting the fact that they couldn't grow a fringe anymore. It was so thin. My mum would comb her hair over the wash basin and pretty much count the hairs every day. It was really traumatizing for them.
Yeah, it is.
And
it's a common thing, by the way, especially for menopausal ladies. It is a big thing and it's increasing.
And the thing is, hair loss, because I've written a lot about that. I have it myself, or hair thinning. And it's so multifactorial. And there are a lot of products like hair gummies, there's serums, there's all sorts of treatments. But I think it's really important to get specialist advice because there are so many things that can cause hair loss and thinning. You can so easily go down the wrong path and waste your money
and time,
and not get any results and get more miserable.
Yes, because I think that was the thing for me. So I started to sort of add extensions into my hair when I was in my early 30s because it was thinning, and I think we have thin hair in the family anyway, so it's a genetic thing. But I also noticed at that time the dietary advice that I was following, because I tend to put weight on quite easily. So eating high protein diets, which was really good for my weight management. But every time I did that,
you lost hair.
I lost hair every single time.
So hair is considered expendable tissue. So the minute you have any kind of trauma or shock or crash diet, or we saw it in COVID, you get ill, your body deprioritizes hair growth, and hair has, after bone marrow, I think it has the second highest turnover of cells, which means it needs feeding in order to grow. And the minute it's kind of, you stop feeding it, you notice it. Well, you usually notice it about 6 weeks after the event. And it does need, I saw a trichologist at Philip Kingsley. I've been there a few times, and they do say you need complex carbs to feed your hair. Hair needs energy.
There you go.
It also needs protein. So
I was in a chicken and egg. So there's a genetic like you on my mother's side. We have thin hair in the family. On my father's side, we have thick hair. My sister, unbelievably luscious thick hair to this day, like thick schlock of hair, moaning about the fact that, so much hair, she's always got to get it thinned. On my mother's side, thin. So it was genetically predisposed. But it was a chicken and egg for me, because in order to keep my body not even slim necessarily, but just kind of weight management.
Yeah, so not to get your insulin spikes.
Yes, because that was the problem.
Sugar.
So low carb diet for me definitely worked. But every time I did a low carb diet or was trying to follow a low carb diet, I noticed my hair would thin. So do you go for what are we doing? Are we doing hair or are we doing body? And it was a sort of bit of a yo-yo between the two, and it was a disaster. So it was just getting thinner and thinner and thinner. So that's interesting. So just before we go any further, you just talked about the expert at Philip Kingsley. Is that, if anyone's listening and wants to go and see an expert, who would be the person that you would send people to?
Well, I went to Susie, I can't remember her surname, but she's a leading trichologist at Philip Kingsley. She's very sympathetic. She has got the most amazing hair. I mean, so thick, but she also, supports her hair with hormone drops, which I now take. So she prescribed hormone drops to me. So the thing is, they will do a blood test to determine the cause of your thinning. And for me, and for many women, low ferritin levels. So ferritin is the iron storage protein, and it's part of the energy mechanism of your hair. And even though a blood test, a sort of standard NHS blood test, will say your iron levels are okay, you need to test specifically for ferritin, and you need to get them to optimum levels, so sort of better than normal, just survival levels. And what I thought was androgenetic alopecia, so basically like a male pattern thinning that women can also get, so you thin like men do, sort of on the crown and around the temples. So I had some thinning here around my temples, and it wasn't thinning, it's just the hair would not really grow. It would come out of the scalp, but then stay like baby hair. And she said, I can see that's she thinks that's a lack of ferritin, which was proven by a blood test, because the hair ferritin is linked to the anagen, the growth phase stage of your hair. So I wasn't getting enough of whatever my hair needed to grow in the bits that were slightly affected by the androgenetic, a family predisposition. So you can have a disposition that kind of poodles along in the background, and then you might get something like menopause or a shock, or as far as I understand it, something can trigger it. Yeah.
And then the body, this is where when people talk about sort of genetic disease, and they go, oh, well, it runs in the family, like thinning hair. But what it is ultimately it's a genetic predisposition to reacting to whatever the stressor is in a particular way. So, for example, in our family, it tends to be it's our kidneys that get involved. But in other people's families, it could be that it goes into more the liver. Therefore, it could be more of a stroke, or it could be more plaque on the arteries, or something. Or it's the heritage of the family, which is what your body then chooses to do with the stress. James is waving something. What's this? 90% of people seeking help for hair loss are female, which is research from 2021. There we go. So it really is a feminine issue.
Well, that's because I think it really bothers us, because we think we're on the slow slide to baldness when the hair starts to go, because that's this kind of a visual reminder of the aging process, isn't it? That
and also men are allowed to be bald.
Exactly.
And we're not.
Women aren't allowed to be bald.
No.
And so it's very emotional for women losing your hair. So, but there is lots of help about, but there are also lots of products on the market. So
so let's just scroll back a minute. So the first thing to say is that you're saying is
find the cause.
Yes, and go to an expert.
Find the cause or causes. Yeah, because it is. I do think it's worth investing
I
in
agree.
a visit to a trichologist, because they can tell you exactly what you're looking at,
right,
and save you time and money in the long run.
But for people that either A, can't, or B, aren't able to go, in your now experience from this, what are some of the key products that you think generally are or key practices? Because again, just to say, one of the things that I got really annoyed about when I was really sort of focusing on this was the serums and all the different things that you're rubbing in made my hair look even worse because they were oily.
It needs washing more.
And I was like, well, hang on a minute. I need to look good. I can't just be on a 3-month serum thing that I'm rubbing oil into my hair that looks disgusting. Like I've got to present myself.
I think the first thing is nutrition. Make sure you're feeding your hair because your hair has a high energy requirement every day. So are you feeding it complex carbs and protein and vitamins? Vitamin D is really important, zinc, and just making sure you get enough protein in your diet. So, for example, cottage cheese bread, which I've been getting into.
Oh, yes, I've been watching you doing that.
I know.
It looks amazing.
11 grams of protein per slice. Delicious. You can have 2 of those for breakfast and you've already got 20 grams of protein, which is the equivalent of a protein shake. So if you want to have your, get your protein naturally and you eat dairy, then... And if you don't like cottage cheese, you can use Greek yogurt. So anyway, I've got a recipe on my grid, but there's recipes everywhere. You can just Google cottage cheese bread.
When you do these things, right, again, I get a bit girl crushy now. Because you did a really good one on milk, almond milk as well.
Oh, yeah.
The way you produce them, it's really good. You're like Delia Smith when you get going. Honestly, and I'm looking and go, God, I couldn't bloody do that. Mine are all just like chucked together. But they're really good the way you produce them. So they're really... poppy and fun, so that's a really good one.
My 10-second mayonnaise as well. That
was brilliant as well.
It's really fun. Anyway, we can talk about that another time.
Yes.
But okay, so products. Make sure you're getting all the nutrients for hair in your diet, and you're not. Actually, some medications can interfere with hair growth as well. So if you're on medication, just check with your doctor as to whether your
And
medication...
what supplements do you personally take?
So I take ferritin because I was told to by the doctor. I take vitamin C because 2 sachets of Altria liposomal vitamin C, which we talked about last time, because that has got studies behind it showing really amazing support for hair. I take... vitamin D for all sorts of reasons as well.
Yes, and vitamin C for all sorts of reasons.
Yes, exactly. And zinc too, immunity, which we'll go on to talk about.
Exactly. And also the fact that we said this last time about the fact that so much stuff's getting stripped out of the food chain because of over-farming and, just kind of all sorts of reasons, that it is important to take good supplementation to make sure that the stuff that normally would be coming in through the food is coming into the body, because hair ultimately, as you said, it's from a Chinese perspective, it's the exterior manifestation of a few organs. So it's a bit like sleep. The reason it's such a common thing is because we're all exhausted and we're all stressed and we're not eating properly and our lifestyles aren't quite in balance. So the reason hair is becoming such an issue is because our lifestyles are whacking several different organs. And remember the kind of the 3 things to owning your health, which we talk about, which I won't go over again because I say it all the time, but it's strengthening the 5 key organs. And when it comes to hair, 4 of the 5 key organs, because I guess we can just about take the heart out, although it would get involved, but 4 of the 5 key organs are involved in hair loss.
That doesn't surprise me because it's hair is so reactive, isn't it?
Exactly.
So what works for someone else may not work for you and vice versa. So I would just make sure that you've got a hair-friendly diet. And then as we get older, everything gets drier. We know that. So our scalp starts producing less sebum. So you'll probably notice your hair's getting less oily. So we need to moisturize and hydrate, so water and oil, the hair. So we need to make sure we've got a really healthy scalp. So using scalp scrubs, using those kind of brushes, the kind of rubbery brushes in the shampoo phase. And obviously scalp combing with the...
Going to talk about that in a sec.
Exactly.
But you've got this little stampy thing I've seen you show.
Yes, I've got it in my bag.
So shall we...
Yeah. So I'll show you that in a minute because the sort of basics and most affordable is treating your scalp like you would your face. You notice your face has got drier, therefore moisturize it more. But not all conditioners are designed to go on your scalp. You'll notice if you put do you want it on the mid-lengths and ends? And there's a reason, because most conditioners aren't designed to go on the scalp, but some are. And I've got one in my bag by Rahua, Rahua. They're
I love that
really
brand.
lovely hair brand, really, and very eco as well. So they do a mask, which is a conditioning mask for your hair and your scalp. So quite a lot more conditioners are now designed to go on the scalp, but do check.
And just to go back a sec, scalp scrubbing.
Yeah.
Now that's a bit of a new technique that people might not know about. So I'll talk about the comb in a sec, but
using a scalp scrub. So yes, I mean, You can also use a chemical exfoliant like a salicylic acid if your hair is very oily. And it's really important to remove buildup from your scalp because your follicles can get affected by clogging and being kind of not,
like your skin pores.
Yeah, exactly. And anything, you don't want your follicles to underperform. You want them to produce this lovely, healthy hair. So, and actually Susie at Philip Kingsley said, she looked at my hair under a microscope and she said, you're missing a bit at the back. I can see you're not properly kind of scrubbing the back. You're kind of focusing on the front. So just making sure that you take time with your fingers or with one of those rubbery brushes to really make sure all the hair is exfoliated. A scalp scrub, I do quite like them, but I think the manual one works better because it brings up the blood flow a little bit better as well.
So just actually, this is probably a good time to talk about the combs. So I brought this one as one of the early. It's one of the earliest tools actually that we launched, which is it's the body comb, but its primary use is for scalp combing because this is what I do. Because obviously I have got extensions in my hair, and I'm not going to lie and pretend I haven't. I do, and I'm very honest about that. So it's absolutely paramount that I look after my scalp in different ways because I can't use oil on my scalp and I can't use scrubs on my scalp because I've got glue sort of at the back there. So what do? This is why we use this, because scalp combing is a very ancient technique in Chinese medicine, and jade is really good at releasing heat. So in Chinese medicine, aside from the fact that hair gets impacted by organ dis-ease, it's also something to do with the fact that when bodies get inflamed, or we say hot, heat has a habit of going up. Now the body has many things it can do with heat. It can send it up and out, it can send it into joints, it can send it into empty spaces in the body, but it can also send it up into the head in order to get it away from here. This is center command. So when you hear me talking about strengthen the 5 key organs, because the body will always prioritize organ health over absolutely everything else, which is a reason why beauty for us is the exterior manifestation. So if you've got thick hair and if you've got unlined skin and if you've got all the things, all the beauty markers we talk about, it's because the organs are healthy. It's a signal to the outside world that I'm healthy. So therefore I'm in full life. I look beautiful because I feel beautiful. That's slightly got mistranslated over the years, but it's true. So the reality is that the jade comb is really good because it's naturally cooling, because you've got heat trapped and it tends to get caught, because what then happens is the skin gets compromised when we get stressed and things get tight, and the body diverts blood away from digestion and skin and it puts it into the muscles for fight or flight, but we're not moving. We're looking at our phones, we're sitting at our desks, we're sitting in public transport or cars. So this heat gets trapped. So it's really important to use a massage technique. Now you can use your fingers, of course you can, and we can use those little plastic things as well. But I like this because it's cool. Yeah. And jade keeps its coolness. So what we do is, if you've got nothing in your hair, now I've just had my hair done for this, so I don't really want to mess it up too much. But basically, you take the jade comb and you just munch like a hungry caterpillar, just go like all the way down the front to the back, and then all the way from the back up to the front again. Now, what I do, let's go say here, for example, because the extensions start here. So basically, I just kind of jiggle it like that. So I'm kind of going like that in between all the little marks, and then just giving it a really good sort of scrub by working at it throughout there. And now the other thing you're doing with this, because jade obviously has a relationship with the energy and the blood flow of the body, so you're working with the blood circulation and also the energy flow, because on your scalp you will see that there are all of these energy points all over the head, which are really important to the body's elimination. You've got the gallbladder channel, you've got the bladder channel, you've got the 100 meeting point at the top of the head. So you've got all these kind of energy markers, all relating the body to the brain and to the blood flow, and this energy flow, and the kidneys at the back relating to this. So everything's kind of culminating up here. So you want to be using a natural product that's come out of the natural world, because your body has come out of the natural world. So I use that as well as. Now, I guess people are going, well, if it works so well, how come you shoved extensions in your hair? Well, because at the end of the day, I've only got so much I can work with. And so I love having thick flowing hair. Yeah. I think it was because I had my hair scalped in a past life. That's what I do.
Really?
I do. I think it's part of the witch hunt or something. So to me, having gorgeous, thick, flowy locks is something that I just want to have.
Yeah.
And I just do. And that's that. But I use this in conjunction with to make sure that I'm preserving the health of my scalp and energy and and blood circulation. Goals to sinusitis, to eating chia seed rye bread in order to get good bowel movements in autumn, to decluttering, to a myriad of different things. And you need a partner that can kind of run with you at the same time. And the Naked Pharmacy is just that, because they have supplements for everything, which means whatever topic we're talking about, you can pop over to the Naked Pharmacy and they will have supplements to support this information. Now, not only that, they are very content rich. They have an actual pharmacy, which is what's so great. So just as we as a brand here on Own Your Health are very keen to answer all your questions and to keep the dialogue going with you, to offer the advice as much as just products themselves, the Naked Pharmacy are the same. So they have the products to match the content, but they also have the expertise as well. Now, they cover anything from stress to sleep to mood to energy to gut health to weight management, and pretty much everything else besides. So they're also going to give you the support as well. And they're offering us a 20% discount. If you use KT20 at checkout, which is at thenakedpharmacy.com, and you pop in KT20 at checkout, you will get a 20% discount. Our second wonderful partner is Evolve Beauty. And now the reason I love Evolve Beauty is because their lovely founder Laura Rudo is very close to my heart, in as much as she really looked at something which actually needed to evolve, hence the pun on the name. But actually she needed we all needed to evolve. We needed to come out of chemical-based beauty products which were bad for our skins, bad for our bodies, bad for our environments, and come up with something which is cruelty-free, which is vegan, which is pregnancy-friendly, which is environmentally friendly, and has a commitment to zero waste production and carbon neutral practices. That is quite the remit. I certainly know from setting up the Hey You method, it is really, really difficult to walk the path of integrity. You are being pulled in every single which direction to kind of cut corners, and you have to kind of really be committed to the evolution of everything in order to actually walk that path. Now, Laura has done just that. So that's exactly what she's doing. And again, with very, very highly clinically tested products, which are really good for the skin and really good for the environment. She is also giving us a bargain. She's giving us 20% off at till point if you put in this time Brindle 20. There are T's and C's that applied, so do please have a look at the description for more details if you need more information. But if you pop over to evolvebeauty.co.uk, you can have a look for yourself and take advantage of the 20% discount.
So I use that away from the shower though, because I'm a dropper. I've dropped quite a few jade tools in the shower before.
Yes, use on a carpet.
So I would use my rubbery thing in the shampoo phase just to really work the shampoo in.
Good
and
idea.
then I use that afterwards. And actually it's really good, like dry shampoo, it works for me. So if your hair's feeling a bit limp and you can zhuzh it with that in the way that you'd normally do with dry shampoo.
Yes.
And it just gives it root body without messing it up.
Yeah, and I don't like dry shampoo because it's full of chemicals, which you then breathe in. So, but that I love. And the other thing that I talk about a lot is the castor oil compress, which is also really good. Now that's a bit oily, but so what I do with the castor oil compress is I put it on my head. I mean, poor Mr. Brindle anyway, because sometimes I go to bed, it's not in here, with 4 of these. Hang on a sec. I think it's...
Where do you put them then?
The castor oil compress.
Yeah, because I've got one. I have never thought of putting on 4.
Let me just go and grab it. Excuse me one sec. Okay, so basically, the original castor oil compress is really designed to go on your liver.
Yeah.
That's its kind of primary use. But of course, I like getting value out of my castor oil compress. So you can use it on your kidneys, your liver, your lower belly for sort of IBS, bloating, adhesions, endometriosis, period pain, anything like that. And you can also put it on your head. So every now and then I will go to bed with 4, because in fairness, I have 4 because it's my brand and it's what I do for a living. So therefore I have 4 compresses. So this one, for example, will go literally on my head, this got oil on it, so I don't want to put it here.
Like a bonnet.
Like a little bonnet, honestly. So I've got 4 of these on me. I mean, I look like the Michelin man. Literally, it's not sexy.
Can we see a picture, please, of one?
Oh, yeah, I don't want to put this one on because well, hang on, why not? Okay, so basically, I go to bed with this. Now, this is the night before the hair washing day, folks. Okay, so what happens is, because this is a really, really good treatment, because, of course, castor oil is just one of, nature's brilliant things. The other oil which I like to use is, if I don't want to do castor oil, I'll use rosemary oil, which is really, really good for hair growth. Yeah, that's
stimulating. So anything that you can stimulate your follicles with. So that caffeine is in a lot of hair growth serums as well for that reason.
Yes.
So
this basically goes, I go to bed like this, basically. I sort of tie it up above my head like that, and I look like that. And It's not sexy. But the next morning, I take this thing off, and then I wash my hair. And right, so now look at this. So yeah, then I wash my hair, and you get really, really good results with that, because castor oil is really good at drawing the toxicity again out of the body and softening all the cells down and things, so that the lymphatic flow can get in there in the circulation. So again, you then go back over it with this, and I've also got that little plastic thing. I hadn't thought of using it in the shower. I will.
Yes, no,
that's
but
brilliant
it will
idea.
get it all. It's instead of a scalp scrub, you don't need to buy a scalp scrub then.
Yes, and then you're using the tool. You see, the reason I like tool-based products, which is really what I've got, is because once you bought a tool, you've got it forever. Although this one, please use it. Put a towel down. Use, just be careful. There is a hack actually. You can put a little rubber band and attach it, which I have shown. I haven't got a band to hand here, but you just literally hook the band around there, and then tie it and put it around your middle finger, and that stops it flying out.
Perfect.
Okay, so so we're in the shower, we've got some tools, we're using castor oil, we're using rosemary oil, and now we've got some really cool stuff.
So we're putting a conditioner on that can also go on your scalp, because you want to moisturise your scalp. So something like this one, this is Rawa, the Founders Blend Scalp and Hair Treatment.
Brilliant.
So you can use that. That's really nice and natural and very powerful. Then, actually... so afterwards, you were asking about the Dermastamp thing.
This stamping thing, which I saw you use, and I was all over it.
So this is a growth factor treatment by Calisim, and it's got studies behind it. I think the percentage of new growth is something like 16%, which for hair is a lot. I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but
as if you've got thin hair, because that's nearly 20%.
Exactly.
That's like a fifth of your hair.
So it has a little. You get a little vial of liquid, which is growth factors. These are not vegan. They are made from the umbilical cells of ethically harvested red deer umbilical cords. So they are harvested naturally. Basically, the deer give birth in sort of pastures in New Zealand, and instead of throwing the umbilical cords away, they take the stem cells from the field, and then they totally sanitize them, so there's no danger of zoonotic transmission.
Now, red deer is in Chinese herbal medicine. Red deer is something which featured a lot. Now, obviously, we don't in Chinese herbal medicine now outside of China. We don't use animal products at all. And when you're starting to talk about things like that, this is why I love talking to you, because you've done your research and it's done correctly. And that is absolutely paramount. It's like our brushes. We work with this brilliant woman who works with the Mongolian tribe, and it's all absolutely, you can just see the supply chain going through, and that is paramount importance, because otherwise there's problems. But this is great.
This will be a waste, something that's otherwise a waste product. And the deer are grown for, not grown, the deer, their primary function is to do something else, not to be, to not to be what's the word? Husbanded.
Yes.
For whatever it is, farmed. For our.
So it's a byproduct.
It's a byproduct. That is
right.
The word. Right. So, what you do is you get this thing called a Dermastamp, which I'll show you. It's like a microneedling tool. So these are tiny 0.5 millimeter microneedles, and instead of, so you've seen the derma roll. I know you've used them. Yeah. So for the hair, it's much easier to stamp instead of roll, because your hair can get caught and tangled. So you do this when your hair is wet. You make partings in your hair, and you stamp like 4 or 5 times forward and backwards, and then you get your little pipette of this, and then you put the liquid on. And
does that then make your hair look greasy, lank, and all the rest of it? Because
then you dry it. So you do it when it's wet. No, it's a watery liquid. It's not oily at all.
Right. So there's no residue.
No, absolutely not. No, and you want to leave it in. You want to leave it in to really absorb. So I wouldn't then wash it out. I do it after washing and not go in the swimming pool or in the shower or anything like that. So you want to let it sink in.
And do you still do it? Is it genuinely something that you've been doing and you keep doing? Or do you do it once?
It's
quite pricey, isn't it?
Yes, it's about £350 for a course. But the studies show that 1 to 2 courses are effective. And it is an investment, but it's one of the few things that I have found works, because I've also had PRP, platelet-rich plasma, injections in my scalp, which also work.
That is expensive.
But it's like 4 times as much. So
Yeah.
this is, I'd say, if you're thinking, I like the sound of PRP, which is using your plasma, which is rich in growth factors. So this is also growth factors, but manufactured. So instead of putting your own growth factors in your scalp for 4 times the price, you're putting this cultured growth factor, this manufactured growth factor into your scalp. But again, it's highly scientific, and with something like this, you're also paying for the fact that they have bothered to do really extensive clinical trials and make sure this is absolutely fit for human consumption. When with something like stem cells, we really want to be sure that it's the
and
right
also
thing.
an animal derivative.
Exactly.
It's a bit like our lovely friend who does the Leapfrog Immune.
Yeah.
She's using lactoferrin, which is a byproduct of producing milk. So immediately it's kind of like, okay, so now we've got an animal involved.
Yeah.
But the welfare of the herd
Yes.
is very much part of the food chain that she's working with. So actually, if we can encourage good husbandry and good working with animal relationships, that everyone's benefiting, then that's an encouragement. That's a good thing to do.
And I've given this to other people when I've had a spare box. And
Cool,
I know.
I was going to say you're.
I know.
You're popular.
Well, I've given it to my sister, and she obviously same genes as me.
Yeah.
She noticed a difference. So people who don't do anything else to their hair, like me, I'm always going for treatments and things.
So just to recap on this then, so what you've just touched on is super expensive is PLP. Absolutely.
PRP,
Loads of science behind it. Totally works. I have that done every now and then as well. Totally big fan, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
Then we've got the middle price here, which is sort of 300 odd quid, which is sort of do it as a treatment, one-off treat. But then we've got a couple of tool-based things. So just talking about blood, actually, is another one of these products here, which I use all the time on my head. Now, this is cheap as chips because this is the body tapper, which I encourage everyone to use because it's for general energy flow. But body tapping is something that the Taoist masters did for centuries because it encourages stem cells up.
Yes,
because,
I remember you
because
said,
stem cells are released out of the long bones. Okay, so basically when we encourage people to tap all over the body, which I encourage you to do anyway, and if you don't want to buy this, then just use your hands, okay, even cheap. So this is now cheap.
Yeah.
This is now free, okay, so use your hands. But encourage the stem cell production through the long bones, but not just to sort of get them out of the long bones because you're tapping them, but then you've got to move them around the body. So the reason why I like using the tapper is because a useful technique with the length of the tapper is to go down the spine, which is such an important aspect of the immune health, and also connecting the whole body together, moving stem cells kind of where they need to go. So using this on the spine itself, because it's the perfect shape for your spine, and then to take it over the head. So that what you're doing here is encouraging all sorts of cellular activity all over the head. So obviously it's not scientifically kind of worked through to quite such a degree because no one's scientifically worked out tapping on the head yet, although they should. But as a very, very cheap alternative, it's a bit of a no-brainer. So I would very much encourage that. And you can literally sort of feel the energy flowing throughout the head when you're doing it.
And I noticed that with my other yoga teacher hat on, any kind of inversion, basically getting your head down. I mean, you can see the blood flow going to the face.
Yes.
So it's going to the scalp as well. So if you join any of my yoga classes, we do inversions, even just hanging in a ragdoll, which is a forward bend, holding opposite elbows, letting the blood flow go to your head. And if you persist doing headstands, perfect, great. But there are kind of ways to build up to that, which still get the blood flow to the head and scalp.
So before, we're going to talk about yoga and qigong in a second. Are there anything else in your little box of tricks?
Yes. So if you're looking for, so one step down from the Calasim hair treatment would be microneedling with a 0.5 millimeter roller. So I think 0.5. I've got it in here. 0.5 millimeter is about the most you can have over the counter, because then it starts to penetrate the scalp and you cause bleeding, and you need to have a really sanitized environment. So that would be in a clinic to have when I've had microneedling in my hair in a clinic, I've had 1 millimeter to 1.2.
Wow.
It is a little bit spicy.
Yes.
But my scalp has been thoroughly, sanitized first, and I've had dedicated growth factors needled in. So
and was that Philip Kingsley?
No, that was at
there was someone else
Ricardo Villanova,
That's
the hair
right.
whisperer at Harrods. Yeah, he did great work. He did my PRP, and So you can buy a microneedle gadget separately, which I've got here. So this one is from Scandinavian Biolabs. It's a new Scandinavian dedicated hair growth brand. So 0.5 millimeters, the same. And actually, I didn't find it too tangly to do the...
Right, so it didn't snaggle your hair.
No,
not too badly.
and don't forget microneedles get blunt, so you need to replace them every...
Yes, you do. And you need to sterilise them.
Check the uses, with alcohol. But they do a serum called Pilixin serum, and they've so this is designed to be used topically on the scalp, but you can also needle it in. You can't needle in everything because some serums for the face as well, they're designed to stay on the surface, so they will have ingredients you don't want to be drawn into the skin. So the next thing down would be to get a scalp tonic like the Scandinavian Biolabs one, or anything that says something like peptides for hair. Peptides are really great for hair growth. So The Ordinary do a really cheap one, and one that people love and that keeps selling out is by Shampoo, CHMPO, the Ayurvedic hair brand, and it's called Pitta Growth Serum, and that one gets good results. And none of those are oily, so you can use them daily. And there's a new one from Living Proof. It's called Scalp Care Density Serum. Living Proof are very good at testing in the lab whether their things work, and they're all silicone free. And this one holds the hair in your head longer. From memory, from the launch, it somehow stimulates the follicles to be a little bit more kind of grippy. So there's lots of good things. But also, I would say, if you're suffering from hair loss or hair thinning, what you can do is just really care for the hair you have to stop, breakage and keeping it shiny, and that's keeping it in brilliant condition. So just really focus on the condition of your hair. And protein pre-washes, there are two that I love.
Ooh, protein pre-wash.
Oh my God, this is
what does that, sorry, I didn't know about this one.
So Philip Kingsley Elasticizer, it's a classic, but I don't think it's been bettered. It was created for Audrey Hepburn.
You were talking about this, and oh my God, here we go again. So you were talking about this, and off I went again. I thought, because you were saying that the Philip Kingsley Elasticizer is like one sold every nanosecond.
Yeah,
it is the product, isn't it?
It is. It
and it
is
still
really
is.
good.
It's like Elnet.
And it works. It works cumulatively. It puts the elastin back in your head, the bounce. And I wear it overnight. I sleep in it sometimes, and then you have to wash it out. So it's a pre-wash treatment,
right?
So there's that one, which is great. It has got a bit of silicone in, which I don't actually mind. But if you want a silicone-free brand,
and by the way, that because it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but just from my QVC days,
yes.
They sell on QVC.
I know.
Oh my God! You need to put seriously, because they do vats of it on a
get
really,
the big
really
one and decant it into a small one.
And it's not cheap, but it's the cheapest way to get it. They always do offers on QVC.
Yeah, you can get like
really
a whole
one.
litre or a litre and a half for like 50 quid.
Yeah, and it's worth it.
As opposed to this one, which is 150 mils for like
50
35.
quid. Yeah, exactly. It's all in
the other one,
packaging.
which is brilliant, and I used this morning, is the Michael Van Clark 3 More Inches Lifesaver Ultra. That's the really strong one. And these are cashmere proteins. So it's a protein strengthening pre-wash.
And so that goes in the night before?
Yeah, so I had that on this morning for about 2 hours, just while I was pootling along, getting ready, and then I washed my hair.
Right,
and it
so you
just
need to be a bit
makes it
organised with that. That's not a nothing.
No, you can sleep in it as well.
You can sleep in it.
Yeah.
Always make sure if you're doing that, guys, because that, from a Chinese perspective, is like, the minute you've got damp things kind of going around your hair channels in the overnight is not necessary. Sometimes with these things you do need, I would endorse being a bit more organised and perhaps having a turban type thing, so that those turban towels, I've got one actually, they're really useful, so that you can put these things in on the wash day. But you need to be, I don't personally, castor oil, yes, the minute you're starting to use kind of products overnight you've got to be a bit careful,
well,
just for damp,
but
certainly
nonetheless
the Michael
really
Van
good. Clark one, it does dry, but it's probably still damp. So if you've got it on for 45 minutes, you're fine. Obviously, the longer you leave it, the better. But 45 minutes, which you might be able to do before bed, for example.
So those are really good kind of symptom-based solutions, which is so useful. So from, as I said earlier, from a Chinese perspective, the reason why hair is so common is because it's connected to so many of the different organs. But I have got a hair loss fact sheet, and I've got an alopecia fact sheet, which is on the website, which I've gone into absolute bells and whistles about. But for anyone thinking, I can't be bothered to go to fact sheet, I'm listening, tell me now, is the number one thing for your hair is kidneys. As I said earlier, the beauty of the body is the exterior manifestation. And so the dominant organ is the kidneys. The kidneys open into the hair, but also so does the liver, because the liver is kind of like, your body's like a tree. So the hair is like the leaves of the tree. So if the leaves are starting to sort of get a bit sick, because what the body will do, like a tree, is it will release leaves in order to preserve the kind of organism. So the liver is very much about detoxification. So it's very, very important to keep the liver clear and to keep the kidneys strong. Those are the sort of the two. And then after that, it goes to the spleen, which is very much about the transformation and transportation of food and fluids around the body. So if the spleen is getting walloped by lifestyle, then often what then happens is the blood gets weak, and then the blood's not getting up to the head correctly, and therefore the hair isn't being fed properly. And you've just said the hair needs like all these different things to work. And then last but by no means least is the lungs are also compromised with the hair, because the hair is connected to the skin, and the skin is the second lung. So with all of that little mouthful going on, bottom line is you need to follow my free 3-step plan for generally overall health of the body, and by doing so you're going to start strengthening the organs back up, and therefore your hair will benefit. But that's very much root, and you're very much branch with what you've been talking about there.
So just keep stimulating the follicles with whatever you can. Make sure your diet is fine, and remember that, you know, as you get older, your hair, like everything else, gets drier. So you need to look probably for shampoos and conditioners that are moisturising and moisturise your scalp as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And then there are a few experts. You mentioned this lovely guy in
Ricardo
Harrods.
Villanova, the hair whisperer, and also Philip Kingsley Clinic. I see Susie there.
There we go, two personal. And if anyone wants to cheat like me, I recommend Pip. She's great. So Victoria and I have just looked at the watch, and it's like we've been talking for 45 minutes, which is no surprise because we are friends. We just formalise our conversation in the green chairs. But we've decided that the other two topics we're going to talk about, which is very much connected to our yoga qigong teaching, and also about immunity, because we're recording right now in autumn. And I've already had to navigate myself out of round 1 of the colds, which have come home from school already. We've only been back a couple of weeks. So we're going to save the other topics for another episode, which we're going to record now. So just to say, Victoria, thank you so much for coming in. Hair growth is such a massive topic. If you are watching this on any social platform, do please leave in your comments below any questions that you'd like us to answer. But just to reinforce that Victoria has a huge amount of content on hair loss on your social media. You talk about it a lot, and also teaches yoga. So obviously yoga is extremely good for hair loss as well, as we've just been saying. And I have a fact sheet on hair loss and alopecia and all of the organs that I'm talking about. So there's loads of free stuff to take this journey further. But do leave us questions if you have anything else to say. And do please share this if you're on the podcast platforms, because this is free content and we want to get this out to as many people as possible. And as James was saying, over 90% of people that have hair loss concerns are women. So, and most of the people listening to this are indeed women of that age. So this is not something that you need to suffer with alone. We've got solutions out there. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll hope to speak to you next time.